Hi guys, it's Coach Joe Micela from Performance One Advanced Sports Training, 2012 U.S. Olympic Team weightlifting coach. Today's topic is going to be injury prevention and what are the main things that you can do as a weightlifter to cut down on injuries in the sport. Big thing is recovery. Okay? You have to, outside of your training, nutrition and recovery are huge. Everyone is gung-ho about training, coming in and squatting PRs, snatching PRs, clean and jerking PRs, and then they stay up late and they eat a bag of Skittles and, they think that's it. They play Call of Duty 15 and, that's going to be enough and they're going to show up tomorrow. When you're in your 18, you're 20, you can get away with that for a little bit, but it's not optimal, okay? As drug-free athletes, okay, we don't have the luxury of just instantaneously bouncing back because we're supplementing with performance-enhancing drugs. So we have to rely on things that are proven to work. Number one thing is sleep. An athlete, especially a weightlifter, you need the recovery. If you're not lifting in the gym, you have to be recovering. I'm not saying you're either eating, sleeping, or lifting, but it gets really close to that, okay? So we have to then get a good quality sleep. How much? Okay, there's two kind of major rules or major thoughts on this. One is you need to get at least 8+ hours of sleep. If you can get to 9, beautiful. Get to 10, great. That's a lot. Now imagine if you're a student or if you're doing 2-a-day workouts, that can be a problem. The second train of thought is to add naps, okay? Now my philosophy with naps is they're awesome. The only caveat with that is naps have to be done consistently, okay? You can't just take a nap one day and don't take it for the rest of the week, because then it actually throws off your sleeping rhythms for that evening. But if you take a nap the same time every day, it will help you. A lot of the Europeans, especially of my Italian heritage, they will take a nap every day between 12:30 to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No matter what, they're sleeping, okay? And again, then when they wake up, fresh as a daisy, they're ready to finish out the day. As athletes, if you can also do that, okay? We used to, with some of our elite level athletes back in the day, we would have a training session in the morning, and then they would go eat lunch, and then they would take a nap from about 1 to about 3 o'clock, give or take, get up, move around, then about 4:30, they'd come back for their evening workout. And it worked really good, again, when they're consistent. So again, we're still trying to get that between that 8 to 9, 8 and 10 hours. They're now just breaking that up in maybe like a 6 and a 2 or a 7 and a 2 throughout the day because of, we want that little recharge, really little boost. When I wrestled in college, we had some guys who would just take 20 to 30-minute little cat naps, okay? After classes, before they went to practice, boom, they would take a 20, 30-minute cat nap, then they'd be ready to rock and roll. Again, if 20 minutes you feel you can get recharged enough, great. Now that's not gonna replace 6 or 7 hours of sleep, but it's gonna help fuel you up and boost you into that evening workout through that, or that second workout of the day, and it can be very critical. I prefer something around that hour mark. It's more ideal, okay? Because for me personally, it would take me 20 minutes just to fall asleep. So I usually look for that hour mark of time. If you can get anything more than that, 2 hours, then it can throw off your sleeping that night. But again, if your evening workout is pretty extensive and exhaustive, you'll still find time to go to sleep, okay? You'll still be tired enough that you'll be able to go to sleep. Now, if you're not doing 2-hour workouts in the evening and very intense and you're taking this 2-hour nap in the afternoon, you're never gonna go to bed. Then you're gonna stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning, your cycle's gonna go throw it off. If you can't afford the nap because of your school schedule, your work schedule, then you just try to shoot for that 8+ hours, closer to 9, the better. Okay, those are gonna be the best options. If the second thing, if you have that luxury, you're more of a full-time athlete, then we wanna try to get at least a nap between 20 minutes and an hour every day consistently at the same time. Also, when you go to bed, you wanna try to go to bed at the same time every night and try to get up roughly within about 20 minutes, a half an hour at the same time. Those things of when you go to bed and when you get up and being as consistent is gonna help set that circadian rhythm for your body. That plays a huge role in recovery, okay? If that's constantly changing, that is gonna throw off your recovery, okay? And it's gonna lessen your ability to recover, okay? If one night you're staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, but then you gotta get up at 6, then the next day you sleep until 10, then you're going to bed at 11, and it's constantly changing. Your body it likes routine. When we've seen athletes get hurt sometimes, we've seen it because their sleep patterns are off. It can also affect your hydration. Now we're gonna roll into our hydration. Good sleep equals hydration. When first thing you wake up in the morning, every athlete should drink at least 8 to 16 ounces of water. With that water, there'd be some type of an electrolyte because you're gonna get dehydrated one, you've been sleeping now for 8 hours, okay? You haven't done anything. You're gonna wake up, you're gonna be depleted, okay? You're probably gonna go to the bathroom, number one. Then two, you wanna replace that. So you wanna have some type of electrolyte, some type of salt or sodium, along with potassium and magnesium to get back into your body. As soon as you wake up, as soon as you get up, you go to the bathroom, boom, that's your first thing you do, okay? That's my morning routine, okay? I take some type of Celtic sea salt, boom, a little bit of water, between 8 to 12 ounces of water, I drink that. Then I get going for the next thing I got going on, okay? That is a huge factor. We try also telling our athletes, if you do consume some type of coffee, some type of caffeine, don't do it immediately as soon as you wake up. You wake up, you're like, I can't function unless I have my coffee. Me too sometimes, but try to push that caffeine off, either closer to your first training session or a minimum of an hour to an hour and a half after you woke up. So if you wake up at 6, you know you have to be at the gym at 8, don't consume that caffeine either as some type of drink and some type of caffeine in terms of coffee or whatever prior to about 7 o'clock in the morning. And push it to 7:30, better. You'll still get the benefits at that 8 o'clock session, having it between, 7:30 and 8 or on your way in. If it's strong enough, within the 15, 20 minutes of you consuming it, you'll start getting the benefits. But if you consume it, literally, you jump out of bed and you hit to that pot of coffee, and by 6:05, you're drinking it, it's gonna throw you off. Plus, it's gonna throw you off later in the day as well, okay? We don't wanna be constantly supplied with caffeine throughout the entire day. We want it at the right moments in time, so we wanna have that. But hydration, again, first thing in the morning is huge, and then obviously throughout the day, okay? Weightlifters in particular, like I said, you need to be consuming it. And people go, oh, I have to maintain a certain body weight. Don't worry about it. Maintain your fluids, your water always. Until the last possible minute, right before a competition, within the last 12 to 15 hours when you're gonna worry about cutting your water. Never cut your water before that, before the last day, okay? Don't do it, okay? Don't do it. It's gonna affect your performance. So we wanna be as hydrated as possible. How much is gonna depend on the size of the person, but we're gonna say anywhere between a half gallon up to a gallon and a half. If you're a bigger person that's over 110 kilos, you're gonna be probably consuming, especially in the summer months, you're living in Texas, living in Arizona, you're probably consume at least 2 gallons of water. Again, not at once, throughout the day, but also again, with the proper electrolytes. Big believer in electrolytes with your water, okay, throughout the day. Okay, sodium is not the problem, okay? If you're an athlete, you're sweating, it's not a problem, okay? If you consume too much sodium as an athlete, you know what happens to it? You sweat or pee it out, okay? So don't worry about consuming too much sodium, okay? People got to worry about consuming too much sodium are the people that just eat a bunch of sodium and sit on their ass and they don't do anything all day long. They're not exercising, they're not moving their body, and they're eating like dog shit, okay? And they're just consuming excess of sodium and their body cannot excrete it through sweat, and then occasionally they go to the bathroom, okay? They're probably constipated as well. So we're not gonna worry about that. So we have our recovery in terms of sleep. Again, one of the most key things, okay, to help you recover is gonna get that sleep. Then we're talking about that hydration. Then in terms of nutrition, we're also talking about now our number one thing as an athlete for a weightlifter is protein. You have to consume more protein. I had a discussion with one of our athletes about this. He didn't believe that we should consume that much protein. I was like, how do you think you're gonna build this muscle? Not only build the muscle necessary to lift the weights, but the muscle to maintain what you have, but also from a recovery standpoint. How much? Bare minimum is 1 gram per pound, okay? You weigh 150 pounds, you have to consume minimum 150 grams of protein, okay? I like to say closer to 1.1 to 1.2, okay? Grams per pound, okay? Like I said, you're weighing 200 pounds, you should be getting closer to 220 to 225 grams of protein per day, broken up in either 3 or 4 times in bigger meals. Before, my philosophy used to change. It was like, hey, as a nutrition athlete, or as an athlete, from a nutrition standpoint, you want to eat like 6 times a day, okay? And the problem with that is, unless you're someone who's trying to gain, 20 or 30 pounds because you're a football player or you're moving up a weight class, but you're trying to maintain your weight class, I have a big problem with that because you're constantly feeding your body food and nourishments. Then your body, from a metabolism standpoint, is never kind of turned off. And if it's never turned off, then it's going to affect other systems in your body. Okay, you want to have this emptying effect in your body where you eat, you process it, and then your body says, okay, I'm done with that thing. Now I have to divert my attention in the body to other things, and that could be muscle healing, muscle repair. It's hard for the body to do that if it's constantly having to digest food. Just as it's about to finish digesting that food, right away you feed it again, it's going to throw it off, okay? And we've seen some metabolic effects, some gastrointestinal problems with athletes that are constantly eating like every 2 hours, okay? Now, Again, if you're a heavyweight or you're someone who's trying to gain a punch, you may have no other alternative. But for like 99% of everybody else, I would say get a big portion of your food in different meals, 2, 3, 4 times a day, maximum 3 or 4 times, and that's it. And allow 2 to 3 hours a period of time, minimum, where there's an emptying effect, okay? Where you're not eating anything, okay? And that's okay. That's gonna help you recover. That's gonna help your body kind of get reset, both digestively and for other systems in your body. Again, this theory of like every 2 hours you need to be eating, well, I'm gonna eat what I would normally eat in 4 big meals, I'm just gonna eat it in 6 smaller meals throughout the day. No, I just wouldn't, especially if you're a smaller weight class. I would say eat a big meal and then chill. What we're also neglecting as weightlifters is we're not eating enough fat. Oh, I'm gonna have the skinless chicken breast with my skim milk or my almond milk and my da-da-da-da and this, and no fat, no fat. You need fat. Men need fat, especially. Women need fat too. It affects their hormones. It gives that feeling of satiety, meaning the satisfaction. So when you eat fat, you can go longer versus if you just ate a low-fat, high-carbohydrate meal. You're gonna feel hungry in an hour because you're not satisfied. But if you eat a higher fat, higher protein meal, you're like, man, I'm good. I'm good for 3 hours, I'm good. And because it has a high caloric value, fat does, you don't have to eat as much of the quantity of it, okay? So you can eat a smaller portion food knowing that the caloric value is higher. So from an overall volume standpoint, it's gonna be better for you. You know how much rice you have to eat that has 0 fat in it? You would have to make you feel full. You would feel bloated from how much rice. You ate a bunch of pasta, okay, unless it was covered in butter or covered in some other kind of meat sauce, it's not gonna make you feel full. You could probably eat a pound of pasta. I used to do it back in the day by myself, okay? It's a lot. It's 1,000+ calories in one meal. But I didn't really need to do that constantly, okay? If I knew that if I had balanced my carbs and my protein and my fats better, then I always felt just bloated all the time, okay? And it wasn't necessarily for my benefit. So with athletes, especially with girls, I would say, hey, give them more fat, give them more protein. How much fat? Usually, like we like to use the rule that if you're consuming that 1 gram to 1.5 or 1.1 to 1.2 for protein, you want to be at about 80% of that number. Okay, again, so you're about a 200-pound person, you want to be at about 160 grams of fat minimum, okay, for the day. And then where are we taking the other calories away from? We're taking it from carbs. I think weightlifters just consume way too much carbs. When you look at our American athletes, once we pass like 61 or 67 kilos, our 73 to 81 to 89, even up to our 102 kilo lifters, they just look pudgy. You look at every other country's athletes in those weight classes, barring the super heavyweights, they're lean and they're shredded. China's 102, now granted, he's taking some extra stuff. He's lean and shredded at 102, okay? Most 89s, most 96, you looked at 89s that won and competed in the 89 kilo weight class at the Olympics, they're shredded. Majority of our 89s in America look pudgy. 81s look pudgy. 73s look pudgy, okay? They shouldn't, and it is this concept that they just consume way too much carbs, okay? I think they could cut down. It's not gonna affect their overall performance. Again, if you're balancing up with the fats, they should be all right. Now, this may sound controversial to most people, but let's try it. We haven't tried it before to see. And if you look at some of these other countries' their diets, especially some of the Europeans or some of the Asians, they eat high protein, high fat. Yes, they have carbs in terms of rice because they're Asian, but they're not getting carbs in other areas, breads and pastas and even excessive amount of other vegetables. Same thing with some of the Eastern Europeans. They're not, they're getting protein, they're getting fat, and then they chill out a little bit in the breads and the pastas and even the rices and some of them because they know that it's going to fill them up too much and it's going to make them feel lethargic with a brain fog. I don't get brain fog from protein. I don't get brain fog from fat. I got brain fog from too much carbs, okay? Because carbs, when it breaks down into that sugar, gives you more of this insulin spike in your body. And you get that feeling, like that after lunch feeling, like, man, I just feel like I want to go take a nap. If you have more protein and more fat, you don't get that feeling. You don't get that same feeling. People go, oh, Thanksgiving, I eat turkey, and then, I feel like I'm going to go to sleep. Well, it's not just a turkey. You're eating mashed potatoes. You're eating the cranberry sauce. You're eating the string beans. You're eating, your grandma's, chickpeas, whatever. All those things are extra carbs, and you're consuming excessive carbs and making you want to go, boom, sleepy time. You want to sleep good at night? Eat more carbs, okay? You want to have a shitty sleep? Have 0 carbs at nighttime, and it's going to be harder for you to sleep. Now, you throw in the fat in there, it's going to make you sleep a lot better. So we want to set, again, we want to have a higher 80% of what that number is for you. I want it to be minimum is going to be some kind of fat. Okay, is it more of a higher, like a kind of a keto kind of diet? Yeah. Okay, but I think as a weightlifter and a power-based athlete, that's going to be more beneficial for you, especially if you have to maintain a weight class. Okay, think about it. If you have to maintain a weight class, you have a piece of red meat that has some fat on it. Maybe you're having some butter with that. It may be 4 ounces, 6 ounces. If you're a 49 kilo lifter or a 56 kilo lifter, that meal could sustain you for up to 6 hours. You're like, man, I'm like very satisfied. That was 50 grams of protein right there, and that was 40 grams of fat. You know, well, as a 50 kilo lifter, or 50 kilo lifter, 55 kilo lifter, I'm only supposed to have about 125 grams of protein. I just had a third or more of my protein in one meal. Okay, so now I just have to have another meal, and then I'm basically at my requirements. So 2 or 3 meals, that will help them maintain that 55 kilo body weight a lot easier versus every 2 hours they're eating. If they're eating every 2 hours, what can also happen? You're training the mind, you're training the stomach to go every 2 hours, feed me. Okay, there used to be a little movie called Little Shop of Horrors. It was about a plant that was like a Venus flytrap. He used to eat things he needed to eat every 2 hours, and it would say to his owner, feed me, every 2 hours. He's like, I am not satisfied, and that's what happens. Every 2 hours, you're training your mind, your body. You should be hungry. And it's very easy to overeat calories that way, especially carbohydrates. Then when you need to cut down from a standpoint, you're traveling, you're cutting weight, your body psychologically and physically is going to go into withdrawals. There's no different from you than you being like, you're addicted to cigarettes. Okay, your body's being conditioned to do the same thing. Every 2 hours, feed it. Every 2 hours, feed it. Versus, hey, 3 hours, 4 hours, let your body chill out, let your mind chill out, and then we feed it when we're ready. Okay, you got to be in control of that. Food is a big one. Okay, that is being necessary, and quality food. Okay, can't always be, like I said, fast food. Can't always be processed stuff. The less ingredients that are in it, the better. The more whole the food, the better. A piece of red meat versus, a breaded chicken breast, okay? That would be my first option. An egg versus something else, versus some other processed bar. Those are not saying they're not necessary or they can be convenient, but it shouldn't be your primary when you're doing that. So again, then when we go into, we've had recovery in terms of sleep, hydration, primarily food. Okay. Next most important thing for every weightlifter should have them is some type of sports medicine support staff. The two next to your strength, your coach, the next 2 important people on your list should be some physical therapist / athletic trainer if you have access to that, but a physical therapist, and then it should be some type of massage therapist. And then it would be either a chiropractor, and then down the road, and hopefully you never need them, would be some type of orthopedic surgeon or some type of sports medicine doctor that either can look at blood work, that can look at little owies that you have down the road that need more of an eye on it, that needs medical attention, that eventually you may need to see, get an MRI on. But prior to that, having someone who is your physical therapist, who understands weightlifting, so they can say, hey, I know their body, I know what Coach Joe is putting them through, and I know because of the nature of the sport what certain injuries that can pop up. Could it be a patellar tendonitis? Could it be a strained lower back? Could it be a wrist issue? Could it be a shoulder impingement or a neck issue? So every sport has their injuries, okay, because of the nature of their sport. Football has this, soccer has this. Well, weightlifting has it too. We're not completely immune. Do we have less than most? Yes, but we're also beating up our body because it's a sport where we're progressively asking you to do more work. Okay, it's like being in a swimming pool and the water is getting thicker and thicker. It's going from water to mud. Okay, all of a sudden you go from swimming in the pool and says, hey, go put on this 20-pound jacket and go jump in the pool and now swim your laps. Hey, now we're gonna put a 50-pound jacket. By the end of the week, it's like a 100-pound jacket. And you're like, man, I'm sinking to the bottom. We better swim faster. Okay, that's what weightlifting is like. So the body's gonna go through these rhythms of peaks and valleys in terms of tweaks and no tweaks. And we wanna cut that down. Having that physical therapist on staff or having that physical therapist as your go-to, I'm not saying you got to see them all the time, but even them knowing you, doing a full body check to say, hey, this is where my body's at now. I'm getting ready for this big training cycle. What are you seeing? You meet with my coach and he says, hey, we see an imbalance. Every time they do certain movements, they're twisting. Every time they do certain movements, they start complaining. We go through heavy volume periods of time, they start complaining of, IT band issues, the patellar tendonitis issues. They just feel achy all the time. as a strength and conditioning coach, as a weightlifting coach, I also too want to bounce ideas off of them too. It says, what are you seeing that I may be missing? And you have to humble yourself to know that you don't know everything. Plus, you want them to evaluate your athlete from a completely different set of eyes. Because as any type of coach, you can get myopic with the programming and what you're doing, and you can get an ego. And you can say, my program is foolproof. There's no reason they need to do anything else other than my program. And that's not good, to say that. I have not met a coach that can do absolutely everything. Now, there's sometimes you have to do absolutely everything because there's no one else around. But when you have the availability to now bounce an idea off of somebody else and say, this is your area of expertise, this is my philosophy in my area of expertise, let's talk. Same thing with massage therapists. I believe massage is huge from an athlete's, from a recovery standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, from a mental standpoint. But then they may see something different, and say, hey, coach, we're noticing that all your athletes' lower traps seem like they're excessively tight. Well, we do a lot of extra pulling than most coaching programs because of this is my reason. Okay, no problem, but it's now creating an issue with all your athletes and they're doing something. So you may have to change your volume or build into it more. Now, now if that person, whether it be the massage therapist or the physical therapist, came at me like, guns a-blazing and yelling at me and trying to tell me my job, and they came to me in an aggressive manner, they're going to know something about Coach Joe. You don't come at me with an aggressive manner because I will freaking punch you back in the face, okay? They come at me with an approach of, hey, we need to have a talk, okay? We're seeing this. It's not just, an anomaly. We're seeing it at 2 or 3 of your athletes, okay? There's a trend. All right, we'll bring it to my attention. And, I was experimenting with something, maybe it was the wrong way. Let's talk about it. Let's redo it. If they just said, hey, all squats are bad and you have to stop doing squats, so I'm going to say, go pick another trainer, go pick another athletic trainer because that's my philosophy. We're going to squat. We have to squat. Now, there may be times, well, hey, I know you squat, but maybe for this particular athlete, we may not be able to do it. And they give me and sell me on their reason, and I go, okay, you sold me. If they didn't sell me on their reason through science or a practical application or something that I can relate to win me over, then I won't do it. You know what I mean? And that goes for most coaches. I won't just say, oh, because the doctor said so. I have to be shown and proven through precedent that what you're telling me is going to work. Well, I read it once in one obscure, study. Well, that's not going to convince me. Okay. Oh, we saw a rat model that did this. I don't give a shit. These aren't rats. Okay. These are people. So you have to be able to convince me, and I have to convince them too, that this is my philosophy and this is the reason why we're doing this. Okay. Help me help them. Well, it may just be a manipulation of volume. It may be something technically that I'm doing or not doing that they're seeing that. I remember I met with a team surgeon for a prominent university one time, and he told me 11 of his offensive linemen on his football team were all experiencing the same injury to the point where they all needed surgery, to the point where he was like, this is an epidemic, to the point where he had to have a come to Jesus moment with the football coach, strength and conditioning coach, the athletic trainer on staff, and said, what is going on over here that we just have 11 guys that are now prepared to have surgery for all the same things? Somebody's not doing right. I can't imagine you recruited 11, duds that all had susceptibility to this particular type of shoulder injury. If we did, then that's a sports medicine evaluation standpoint problem. Or is the strength and conditioning program doing something wrong? Or you're trying to tackle and do some kind of crazy drill in there where you're all jumping on their shoulders and their shoulders are exploding. Whatever the case may be, we kind of have to figure this out because we're losing value of these athletes. In a sport with weightlifting where you may only have 1 or 2 really good athletes in your gym, if you're lucky to have 5, 6, 8, but you can't lose them. We're not like a China or some of these other countries. They're like, next, bring the next guy in. And they're like a one-off from the guy that just got hurt. Okay, we don't have that. That's why some of our athletes will be around the sport for multiple quads because we're trying to hold them together. We're saying that we don't have, there's not a bunch of these athletes that are, right a one-off from them, ready to come up through the system. So we have to keep them around. So communicating with those medical personnel. I've gone to appointments. I physically talked to them on the phone. I've invited them to the gym, whether it be a massage therapist. I've said, I'm going to go get massaged by you. I'm going to see what, your bedside manner is, okay? I'm gonna get worked on by this physical therapist. What is their bedside manner? What is their philosophy when it comes to understanding our sport? You know, they have no idea because they only work with swimmers and now they're working with weightlifters. They're a whole different animal. And now can we educate them? We really like this person. Well, now we're gonna bring them into the family. Let's see if they understand it, okay? Let's work with them and literally show them videos, show them what we're doing, show them the dynamic nature. Say, hey, you know what? Why don't you come down to the gym and just do a workout? And we're gonna show you what their body's gonna feel like on a very small percentage level, and even attend a workout to watch what they're doing. Then they're like, wow, this is not what I expected it was gonna be like. Now I see. Now I can better help them and assist you as a program because now I see what's going on. Same thing with the orthopedic doctor or sports medicine doctor. The last thing you wanna hear is, well, if it bothers when you squat, don't do that. I'm like, well, that's not an answer I'm looking for. The answer is like, well, our only option is surgery, okay? Well, that's not also the first option I wanna hear. I want to hear, well, we're seeing this. What did the physical therapist say? I concur. I think this. I think we could avoid surgery at the moment, but we may have to do this. So those are the things we do. Guys, if any more questions, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us, performance1.net.